The planet's climate is changing, and this is irrefutable. Agriculture is greatly affected by these changes, especially in Zambia, where majority of our people depend on agriculture. In Zambia, agriculture is mostly rain-fed, and climate is what determines the rain. In this two-part documentary, we try to understand how climate change is affecting and will affect agriculture and how we can start dealing with these effects. In Zambia, as in many developing countries, the agricultural sector is highly dependent on rain-fed production. However, dependence on rain-fed agricultural production makes the sector vulnerable to weather shocks.
Matarigiro obulimi bwali gabutu kuma early 80s kusika kuma 90s wali butu halaire wakabutu maningi twali kutebula kabutu chakulya chitwa chisibuyu muhimu then anumazo chisibuyu muhimu maningi hula ngora tayibo lijini chiyali kubora kaindi yataka kumuka kubora limi yataka kukhambana kunga
kwena okutampa ngelyo twambile nangu inelo nali mu bulimi imirokele ya mfula yali bwino sana ukufika pali ino nshita tufikirepo pantu ili nshita twalesha kono kulima ifinsa bwansabwa ifi amainsa ifi apalanga tomato wa amainsa twaleli makoli mona repu wa amainsa umulandu wako bati mfula yalelo kabwino nomba ino nshita tulefirwa ukulima efifintu umulandu wako bati nga mwalima lyanefe mulelima mulesango kwebati mumulungu fye omuni nshiturepo mwibala tamuli nangu tomato nishtonse na tumo kupwa kumulandu wa mfula.
There is a growing literature on climate change impacts on smallholder agriculture in Zambia. The Indaba Agricultural Policy Research Institute has embarked on climate change research, as this is important to help illuminate how changes are perceived at the local level.
Research has given us the results that if you have good facts, you're going to make a good decision which will lead to good results. So what Indaba Agricultural Policy Research Institute does in the agricultural policy arena is to increase the use of facts in the crafting, implementation, and correcting of policies. With regard to climate change is a fact. Science has shown that human activity has led to changes in climate. And those changes in climate have affected the livelihoods of people, including those in Zambia. So one of our thematic areas at Indaba Agricultural Policy Research Institute is to bring those facts. How is climate change affecting the rural livelihoods? How are they adjusting? How are they adapting? And then secondly, how do you mitigate further degradation of the natural resource base? How do you make sure that things don't get worse? How can we restore what has been destroyed? So that's what we at Indaba Agricultural Policy Research Institute with other stakeholders are doing.
Zambia has 3 agro-ecological zones classified as Region 1 with low rainfall of not more than 800 millimeters. Region 2, which receives about 800 to 1,000 millimeters of rains. And Region 3, with high rainfall of 1,000 millimeters and above. In Southern Province, which falls under Region 1, with less than 800 millimeters rains, climate change is experienced in form of prolonged droughts and shortened rain seasons.
The weather has been characterized by a number of dry spells and high temperatures. I think we had temperatures as high as 33 degrees Celsius this year, and then that was recorded on 26th of April. That's the highest temperature that we recorded. So if you can see, these temperatures are negatively affecting the farmers in terms of the crop production as well as livestock. Because of the changes in climate, the growing period has been shortened. So most of the farmers, this has resulted in loss of productivity and also production on the part of most of our farmers.
In 2011, 2012, we had about 62 rainfall days, which amounted to about 673 millimeters of rainfall. As a region, which we fall under, which is agro-ecological region 2, under normal circumstances, we are supposed to receive about 800 millimeters as annual rainfall values. Now it has been reducing. Then in 2012, 2013, the amounts went down again. It went to 639.8 millimeters. Then in 2013-2014 season, we had 504.4 millimeters of rainfall. Then 2014-2015, we received about 608.8 millimeters of rainfall. Then just this season, we had 441.6 millimeters of rainfall. I will concentrate too much of the current, this just past season, of 441.6 millimeters of rainfall, whereby it was something which brought change in the attitude of farming, whereby the farmers, in the first place, they received rainfall around November, which was normal. And then thereafter, by mid-December until mid-January, we had the longest dry spell so far recorded in the district, whereby most of the maize crop planted, it got damaged.
Climate models from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, have predicted that between 2010 and 2070, temperatures in Zambia are they might increase by 2 degrees centigrade, and the rainfall might reduce by 8 to 10%. So it means Zambia might experience some climate change challenges within the next 50 years. The southern part of Zambia falls within agro-ecological zone 1, and that is the part of the country which experiences unpredictable rainfall, erratic rainfall. And then that is the most highly affected by climate change. It's no longer conducive for farming.
Regular droughts and shortened rain seasons affect both crop and livestock, resulting in reduced crop production and productivity in the region.
Bagashanga botu mu mwezi wa November inhulania gawali atwagali pinga botu inhulania gabola kuti izowe mapokwe agamena botu ino naga mana kumena botu inhula yaga inka mane kusikila mapokwe agasika mujimo ija magondo mane jimo ja mapokwe jagasika paere kuti abikwe top dressing inhula kwina ni agali kuligope imapokwe agataliga iguyuma ibantu bali kwamba ola mali magane aguti conservation yalo mbulimi ibuja tamenda mbulimi ibuja tamenda pere kuti nhula yayinkirira nga kwabe problem ashonda imapopwe aya nhula niyaga bola agali kukusavyo boya agatalika kuba ahamba yotwamba kuti hamba musu ekopu mbe kopu eyo yaga chanabyo kasika nkoshi kashonto kazwabyo boya mbube kunyina nsege.
Gardening is becoming almost impossible due to declining water levels in water bodies. The dry streams and other water resources are now a common sight in southern province, severely affecting livestock in the area. Farmers have to cover long distances to fetch water for their livestock.
Imenda mga supa kamboga hura ita wiga botu. Paya kwa mana izi guju zilitantene maningi kurahu kuzwano aji guju ni mwasi ya matendo ano kurahu maningi ma distance marahu zilitantene zi guju soji guju jilibyojo mweji shomega mumuzi mwasi ya matendo.
Iya kuri ya ngombe zili shupide lino jindi mumusena imutagwe imusamu yitwa kuti musiwe ushuga suno zishoma kulya mateu aya ingombe po yishoma then kunza wawo italika byo kubweherera buya kuti byo kwindaga kusibona kumikwinda kabede ko hinyangana insima kumaja kujibadera kambo kuyaba marozi basowa insima so okuya ingombe ziranyangana ababwa so ingabararwana kambuga kubora chakurya so ekino kindi ingombe zishoma buyo mateo aya ananigana amushoko aya ashuga lino this time but some places kunyina musamu ushuga ekino kindi so guli penzi ingombe po hiswegere na urajana kwamba kuti ngombe zirakwa kubwe ha distance zo hano ndiza ambweni akwakabanze ndiza ambweni kumapanza ndiza kumbabala cho iswegera bobo twambo tobire ulimenda ulibwisu.
Here in our area there are no dams. Many of the animals they go in the rivers, but now they are already dried. Now the animals they are using the same water from the pump, from the hand pump, which is again sometimes the hand pump, sometimes it has no water. So the animals they are suffering. There is no feed. The cattle they are grazers. Now they become as browsers, as the farmer said.
In northern Zambia, which is normally a high rainfall region, receiving more than 1,000 millimeters rains, the rainfall pattern has changed over the years.
We have data, scientific data that we have been collecting from or sharing with the meteorological department, our agromet here, dated starting from 1972, and which is already showing us that we have declining rainfall pattern. And on the other hand, temperatures are increasing. I have the actual charts and figures with me, but the fact is climate change is real, it's happening. However, we still have rainfall averaging 1,200 millimeters annually. But then when it comes to crop production, we still have a problem, although many people have not realized this. For example, you see, when rains come, say we have 100 millimeters of rainfall, and after 2 weeks you don't have any, that simply means that the crop will be struggling because the crop water requirement would have exceeded the rainfall that was there, and this will lead to usually the poor yields. Already we have most of the data that we have been collecting have in the Luapula province alone, less than 1 ton per hectare of maize production, which will relate to the same problem of the climate change issues.
The northern part of Zambia it falls under agro-ecological zone 3, and that over the past 500 years, it is said, Zambia has experienced more than enough rainfall in that part of the country, which has resulted in leaching of nutrients, and that has resulted in acidic soil. So as much as the rainfall is abundant, but the soils are no longer good because of long-term leaching.
The situation makes it very difficult for farmers to properly plan for their farming activities, leading to reduced production.
Obusomboshi bulekepera ku pantu nga tatubangirire fye nga kulima embalala nga tatulimire fye bwangu mu Novemba nga twalima kuti zembe embalala shirepoboka pantu infula ilakalika bwangu pantu akale yale kalika mu April ifiri mwafyaleva bwino ifyo ewa afya nasanga koneho
mukumona mukulokesha kwa mfula pantu infula imyaka eyapita infula yalelo kamukulinga nomba ino myaka infula taikwete napa kupelela ili abeba limbia tilimiti ya mfula yako batilimbi yala lokela ukuloka kwa mfula eti yaloka chilokeloke limbiti yaloka 3 days tayatala yimini napo so emko bati finsa wansa bwa fyesu te tifipusu kenangu pano no yo lyonse kuba fye ni munsala muchipowe fye chikalamba fye.
In terms of maybe the cropping pattern, like if you have high rainfall, you'll find, for example, like beans. In most cases, it will abort. Okay, there will be no pods which will be formed.
The fisheries sector in the northern region has also fallen victim of the changing weather conditions. Both the capture fisheries and aquaculture are experiencing devastating effects of climate change. Low water levels in natural water bodies have resulted in reduced fish catches.
The waters do go very down. They are very low, meaning even fishing is affected. You don't fish. Which fish are you going to catch in waters less than 1 meter? No. So even the fish that is in the swamps will migrate. It will come in the open lake. Meaning our fishers who are on the swamps, they are also feeling the heat.
It is when mfula yaleloka ishalelenga mumana kwena wale isula sana pantolo ni mwilungu twaleo banenkafi mumwine fe mwilungu wale bundecha kwebati inkafi kuti yaibila fe yonse teti mobe no mumalikano fe muleo bamufyani mwilungu so nishi muno yale bunda sana problem epo yaba mone ino isa October ino isa September mumbuma mumumbali umu na mutumpu katefi chale bakale yao.
In aquaculture, drying fish ponds have become the order of the day.
All fish farmers rely on the rainfall pattern to supply water into their ponds. Instead of having enough rains from November to April or towards the end of April or first week of May, as it has always been, now the rainfall pattern is not predictable. Barely 2 months, 3 months from the end of the rainfall, of the rainy season, their ponds have dried up.
In Region 2, delayed onset of the rains and shortened rainfall seasons have become common over the years, coupled with dry spells. Climate change is known to be caused by human activities that are destructive to the environment. In all the 3 regions in Zambia, activities such as indiscriminately cutting of trees is identified as a major cause for the changing rainfall pattern. There are currently various attempts made towards mitigating effects of climate change in Zambia, with conservation widely recognized as the response to the problem.
The farmers, through the ministry and the other cooperating partners, we are adopting to the conservation agriculture, which is almost a response program to climate change. And also, apart from this, just the conservation agriculture, we are also diversifying. We have realized that we cannot depend on our only traditional crop, the maize, but these other crops for diversifying, they are very important, like the legumes, like the sorghum, like the cowpeas, which we are now promoting, so that if the farmer does not get much from these late maturing like the maize, they can get from the other crops like the beans, the cowpeas, sorry, and the sorghum. So in short, in order to counter this climate change, we are promoting conservation agriculture and the crop diversification.
We've also ventured into rice production. That's the Dambo rice. We also, as an area, we produce a bit of rice in the area so as to cover up. If there are extreme floods, then we can get something from rice. If there's drought, we get drought-resistant varieties. And like sorghum, as I mentioned, also we have maize, which are drought-resistant, the obatampa.
Mizezo njo tujita ulwana ipenzi lya jiyumayuma gapati ubula imenda manji tusola gugulwaiha kuti tutoberehe bulimi bukalirira. Mwaka wakutanguna ndachitidde Malindi ndakamana ndachikwanha kugula ng'ombe ndataliya kulipinga. So tukulwaiha ibalimi mabonse kwamba kuti akamboka jiyumayumeji bero tonsi tujite bulimi bukalirira kam bulimi bukalirira bwa utugwahiriya at least umbwa ngula honto yabola tulakwanha kukwapa mende.
Keeping small animals like goats. Goats, really, we understand them because they're able to resist in any situation, whether drought, whether floods.
There are a number of adaptation measures that the farmers are currently using. One is the use of improved seed varieties. And in most cases, in cases of droughts, these are shorter maturing varieties that they are using in different crops. Two, some of them where they have alternative sources of water, irrigation, small-scale irrigation schemes, or field irrigation technologies are being employed by some of these farmers. Thirdly, through the work that we do together with the government, the upscaling of conservation agriculture. And here we are talking about minimum tillage, which then ensures that your soils are not so much disturbed and you keep a lot of the organic matter in the soil as possible, which then result in any drop of water that drops in the soil being retained for as long as possible because of the organic matter content within that soil that is now kept within intact, rather than the conventional plowing and so forth. Then you have other farmers that actually are also practicing, this is more to do with now the large-scale farmers, plus a few small-scale farmers who are able to insure their crops against climate change. But the problem that we have, again, is that we find that the scale at which they are doing these practices is quite limited. And therefore, our job is now to break the barriers towards adoption, which again brings us back to, let's look at our policies, let's look at our institutions, you look at the extension service system, how widespread can it spread these practices, and also investment in research, because some of these technologies that we are talking about, we still have a long way to go to make them as perfect as possible. And the other aspect is, for instance, look at the climate information. how much and how timely does the climate information reach the farmers, even within a season or across seasons?
You have seen in this documentary how Zambia's smallholder is affected by climate change and some ways of adapting and building resilience amidst these challenges. In the next program, we focus on how to help mitigate further degradation of our environment.